Hello, everybody. I'm Julie Kurtz. I'm the CEO and the founder for the Center for Optimal Brain Integration. As you know, we like to interview folks and cast a spotlight of the attention on some wonderful work they do. Today, I have Rona Renner. She is one of my good friends and colleagues. She is the host of About Health on KPFA radio. She's the author of Is That Me Yelling? And she's a temperament and parenting coach where she trains and consults internationally. How I met Rona was she interviewed me a long time ago when she was the host of another radio show called Childhood Matters. I am going to hand it over to Rona because today she's going to talk to us about temperament. Rona.
Hi, Julie.
Hello.
It's great to see you. I love your setting there too. It's beautiful. And I always love talking to you. I still remember meeting you years ago. The only thing I would add to my credentials is that I'm the mother of 4 and grandma of 5. And so that's where a lot of my learning goes. It comes from. I was a temperament counselor at Kaiser Permanente for about 14 years. And that's where I learned the piece of the puzzle that was missing in all my understanding of raising my kids. So I'm excited about talking with your audience about this.
Rona, I'm so glad that you're here, and I would love for you to share with us a little bit about what temperament is and what caregivers or parents should pay attention to. Why is this so important?
Yeah, so when I was trained early in the 90s, I realized it was a missing piece of my understanding of child development. You know, we often learn about 2-year-olds do this and 4-year-olds do this and teenagers do that. But there's another piece of the puzzle, another layer, which is temperament, which is how we move in the world. It's the how of our behavior. It's our style. It's a natural style we come into the world with. So even as a nurse in the nursery back in the day when I worked in the hospital, there would be some babies who would be lying there like, sunbathing in Hawaii. They were just all relaxed. And then there would be other babies with clenched fists, crying and yelling and moving. And what they saw, the research showed that you could see a child's temperament early on. Now, it may change over time, of course, but there's this whole way we are. And if you have more than one child, you often know this because you have one child, like my first son, he would eat anything. I could take him to rock concerts and he would just go with the flow and very adaptable. And then my daughter, 2 years later, came along, beautiful, sweet, but sensitive. And she didn't like a lot of noise. She wouldn't eat anything that touched on the plate. She also would never take a bottle. She would only breastfeed. And I carried her a lot to soothe her. And so I started to realize, wait, is it that I'm doing something wrong? Or is it just that my children are different and they require different parenting styles based on who they are? So temperament is so important to look at not only at a child's temperament, but our own temperament. So we see how they fit. And when I work with parents, that's often what we talk about is that goodness of fit between a parent and a child.
It's so interesting that you say that because I think of my second child and his temperament and how I thought he was a gift to me because he helped me learn how to adjust my own temperament style that came naturally for me. I had to adjust it. Is that a little bit of what you're talking about, goodness of fit between the parent's temperament and the child's? Are you asking the parent to change theirs, or what do you talk to parents about?
Yeah, so when you get a sense of your child's temperament, and there's, I have a quick and dirty 1-page one on my website that under my services at the very bottom of the page, there's a temperament profile anyone could look at. When you get a sense of your child's profile, then you might find things like, for instance, oh, my child is sensitive. And that means they may have trouble with loud noises, labels in their shirts. They may be a picky eater. And when you realize that, you step back and realize that, you say, oh, I have to adapt some of my ways to make my child more comfortable. So for instance, maybe I don't talk so loud. I remember my daughter would ask me if I would chew a little softer. And then you learn, okay, they don't like ridges in their socks. So I'm going to let them wear sandals without socks. And then we're not going to have battles in the morning. They're going to get dressed happily because they don't have to put on those socks with ridges. So it's not that you're giving in too much. You're being sensitive to individual differences and the diversity of our kids. And then once you say, okay, you don't have to wear socks, but you do need to put your shoes on, and we are leaving in 5 minutes. So it's not like you're giving in to them all the time, but you're understanding what makes them comfortable, what their preferences are. For instance, if you're very fast adapting, so I'm a fast adapting person, I can go from one thing to another, I can change plans, and you have a child who we call slow adapting. That child may have trouble with transitions and changes. So what I tell parents is take some breaths. You know, we're always talking about taking easy breaths. When you ask your child to do something, don't expect it to happen like that. Take some breaths, step back, use a timer. Because if you become impatient and your child is slow adapting, having trouble with change and transitions, you're going to, again, get into a battle. And what we're trying to do is avoid those battles because it gets your blood pressure up and it makes your kids unhappy. And we really want as much harmony as possible. Now, of course, no one has a household where there's always harmony. But if we could reduce that conflict, everyone does better, especially children who then feel seen and understood.
You know, Rona, I really appreciate this. And I totally agree with all of this. However, I imagine that there are some listeners that might say this is spoiling our children if we walk on eggshells around each of their unique temperaments. What would you say to them about that?
We certainly don't want to be walking on eggshells around our kids, so that when you understand this, so for instance, I'm intense and I have one son who's intense. And I felt like I was walking on eggshells because I was afraid of his intensity. And I didn't want to get him angry and I didn't want him to have a tantrum. So once I realized that, I knew that I could put some things in place where I would say, okay, Matt, you need to just chill. And you could tell me if I'm getting too intense that I need to chill too. But then when I approach him and say, you need to chill, we're still going to have to clean up. I'll give you a little time to cool off, and then we're going to start putting things away. So I'm not walking on eggshells and I'm not being too permissive and I'm getting something done. But if I just yell at him, his intensity would go up, my intensity would go up, everyone would feel bad and nothing would get done. So it's about, yes, I have a plan, but I want to be mindful and I want to be respectful of my child. You know, our kids are being told all the time, Julie, what to do at school, at camp, at home, do this now, do that now. So it's a matter of meeting a child where they are, but knowing that you are the person in charge and that you do have to do what's needed. But you don't have to do it by rolling over them. You know, you can do it by, meeting them and doing a little Aikido with them, but definitely not walking on eggshells because kids pick that up right away. And I think it frightens them if they think that the parents are afraid of them.
What an interesting, it brought an analogy to my mind of the steamroller parent who says, I'm the boss, you will submit. The child ends up not feeling safe with you, not building a relationship with you over time, versus the parent who goes and learns the energy of their child and then flows with that energy in a more natural way and honoring of their spirit. Is that a little why you wrote your book that's available on Kindle in the United States and is a bestseller in China? Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, it's been amazing. I'm just so thrilled that people in China are loving it, and it's delightful. But it is on Kindle still. It's called Is That Me Yelling? And the reason I wrote it is I would meet with parents to do temperament counseling and consulting. And we would look at the temperament, and then parents realized that they were having trouble managing their own emotions. And they found that there were so many triggers. A lot of parents are under stress, even more so than ever. And little things would trigger parents. If the kids are fighting, that's a big one. If they're not getting ready in the morning, if they won't go to sleep easily, if they need time for transition and change. And so they were yelling a lot. And most parents don't like that. They know that they want to yell less. There are some people who feel yelling is fine, and they won't read my book or come see me, but most parents see that it doesn't help, and children imitate the yelling, or they get afraid, or they tune them out. And so parents would come see me, and I started to realize what they needed was some self-observation. And what I mean by that is that as a parent, I needed to see what my triggers were, still are, and really evaluate, okay, it's when my kids are fighting that I get triggered, and that's when I start to yell. And what I have to understand is my intensity comes up fast, strong. And so I need to walk away for a minute, unless it's an unsafe circumstance. I need to walk away for a minute, take those breaths, think about what's going on. What do my kids need? Step in and say, all right, kids, this has gone too far. Go to your own separate corners. Let's take a break. I'm going to go get you a snack. Let's do something else. And be able to meet the moment from a place of response rather than reactivity. And this is the work you do all the time, Julie. But what I found with the temperament counseling was that parents really wanted some tools and compassion to figure out how to yell less, because they saw that it wasn't such a good idea.
I'm so glad that we have you on the planet. I feel like more parents need you. I have a favorite quote that just came to my mind based on hearing you talk about adults being aware of their triggers and finding a way to pause. It's by Dr. Viktor Frankl, and his quote is, in between, I'm going to say it the way that I have interpreted it. In between when we're triggered and our reaction, our knee-jerk reaction, there is a space in between, and in that space is the power to choose. And in that power to choose, we can cultivate, in that art of the pause, so much more access to our cortex to think and reason and problem solve. And I think that's what you're saying. And Rona, I just want to invite you to either share some closing words of wisdom. Of course, we are going to, underneath this posting of the video, share how to contact you, your website, your books, your bio. But do you have any closing quotes or words of wisdom that you would want to share with parents?
Yeah, I think I want to say that the first step is to be compassionate to yourself. We make mistakes all the time. I can't tell you, when I look back to all the mistakes I've made with 4 children. So really be kind to yourself, because if you can be kind to yourself, you can bring that compassion out to your children. And remember that they love you, and they're actually doing the best they can, and so are you. And so the more you understand yourself and are willing to really see what makes them tick, the more you're able to enjoy each other, and also continue to set the limits you need to. Love with limits is the motto that I like a lot. So I wish you all well. And again, don't be too hard on yourself.
Rona, that is an incredible closing, is just to have compassion, to accept yourself where you're at in the journey, and continue to build those parenting muscles as you learn and grow. I just want to thank you. I want to thank you personally, because years ago, you are one of the first people that shined a light on my expertise by inviting me on your radio show, Childhood Matters. In fact, Rona, you have so many recordings from your past radio shows and your current radio shows with experts, a wide range of experts that people who are our listeners can still access. So I'll invite all of you to check out those resources. You are going to be touched by Rona as I have in my life and continue to be. Rona, thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.